Eddie Ward's in charge of this match tonight. South Sydney running from right to left. Not a bad crowd here on hand for Friday night football. And it goes deep down into Eastern Suburbs territory for it to be carried back by wing three-quarter Prothero. A chilly night, a still night. Nothing there in the way of advantage. Wind wires, Eastern Suburbs fans very pumped up, wanting their side back in the winner's circle. They liked what happened in the first 5 rounds of the Winfield Cup. Now it's Gaffey getting his first touch of the football and carries it out just beyond the 32-metre line. Hanson. Last tackle coming up for the Roosters now. Charge down on Sherlock's kick. Was recovered by Beecraft. Pulled down by Carroll jointly with 2 other South Sydney defenders.
Some good defence there, Ray, to start the game off, and Souths are going to have to continue that. The Eastern Suburbs team have the second best defensive record in the competition, and South Sydney really struggling in that area throughout this season. If they're going to beat Eastern Suburbs, they have to win this game defensively.
Well played there by Sinclair in the headgear, number 10 for Eastern Suburbs. Wide ball for Hanson. Short ball away for Silva. They've made a clean break. Comes to Mabon. Oh, good fullback play. Silva made the dash down the centre. Sinclair keeps this roll going. Penalty goes to Eastern Suburbs. South Sydney failing to retire the 5 metres. And this would seem an absolute sitter for the Roosters.
Well, East have cut loose early. A fine break made there. South's defence caught short out wide. One of their front rowers caught out there. He came in and took no one. And there's plenty of space there. Silva made a long break. And Sinclair carried it on very well. Eddie Ward tried to play the advantage, but 2 points now coming up for the Roosters.
And what about the enthusiasm of this Eastern Suburbs side? When Silva made that 50-metre burst, he had about 6 or 7 players in support. They really just, every time someone takes the ball up, there's somebody on his shoulder, either shoulder, and that was certainly evidenced by that break there. They had plenty of numbers.
James Matthews lines up this penalty kick at goal, just off centre. Not even 15 metres out. The flags go up. Eastern Suburbs, they grab first points. The game is not even 3 minutes old. And a good start for them, Steve Roach on the sideline.
Yeah, great start. I really do hope that Eastern Suburbs stick with their pattern of play. Although they got beat last week by Canterbury, they opened the game up, and it certainly looks like they're going to open the game up tonight. Good play from Gary Freeman to see that South Sydney were a bit short out wide.
Horan gets us going again, much quicker than he would like. Gaffey comes back. Shoulder charge that went wrong. And how many times do we see that happen?
Oh, they're an absolute waste of time, Ray. They don't put the man on the ground. The man just spins off and away he goes again.
Big tackle there by the South Sydney number 10. Peter Johnston wearing the headgear as well as Mark Carroll. And also Paul Fuller, so there's plenty of them wearing the protective gear on the head. Freeman now. Little chip and chase. The regathers there for Freeman. Pulled down and tackled, though, by Darren Brown. 5 tackles gone now. Sherlock. That's the second time he's kicked out of the dummy half area. This time he finds touch. Midway, 22 halfway, South Sydney's end of the park.
Again, good pressure there from South Sydney on the kicker. You see Sherlock picking up, the marker coming through. Both times the Roosters have kicked the football. Plenty of South bodies coming through. They have to maintain that all night.
Work by Coleman. South going to the right, out to Thompson. Thompson offered it to Horan, but then took the tackle. Referee's whistle and another penalty, this time to South Sydney. That levels the slate. So that big boot of Manoa Thompson's will look for the line at around about the halfway mark, I would expect. And that's where he finds it. A tap taken by Garlick. He calls shot in off his wing. This is Johnston, 15 metres into Eastern Suburbs area, centre of the ground. Decoy run for Coleman to take it ahead and then work it back. And Mark Carroll, wearing the number 8 jumper, is tackled 32 metres out from the line. Now it's across for Andrews. Coleman has faded from the blind side, picked up Maben. Desperate tackle by Brendan Hall. Garlick, Coleman stretching it out wide through Brown to Horan. The defence up quickly, James Matthews. He gets the pass away, but it was a pass that would have been better off not thrown. Picked up by Seidenkamp, played by him, and Sinclair goes ahead. But it's a penalty to Eastern Suburbs. South Sydney not getting back the 5.
Yeah, that was great pressure by the Eastern Suburbs outside backs there to come up and nullify that attacking raid by South. I've got to say this, the South camp is certainly showing a lot of variety in attack, and Craig Coleman early throwing the ball around, and they're looking quite good. But Eastern Suburbs, they're a side, they just grind away to looking for the mistakes, and South have made another one.
Intriguing battle between the sevens tonight. Freeman and Coleman both possessed of a lot of experience. Sherlock will take this tap 33 metres out from the South Sydney line. Matthews, and into dummy half goes a very good performer from last weekend, Seidenkamp, and the referee has ordered a knock-on. Well, that's a bad mistake by Eastern Suburbs. There it is again.
Well, actual fact, he hasn't knocked it on. The man playing the ball has towed it forward, and it's been a mistake by Eddie Ward, but obviously he was unsighted.
2 points to nil in favour of Eastern Suburbs. With about 7 minutes of this match gone, Horan on his own 22 line. A youngster by the name of Miller keeps him company as far as youth is concerned in this South Sydney side tonight. He could have played in the Commonwealth Bank Cup match earlier tonight, young Paul Miller. And he's playing in the centres in his debut game here tonight. Coleman looks for the opening. Good ball by Coleman. That's Maybon over the opposition 40. It's gone to Thompson. Oh, shut the gate. Thompson goes in. I thought there may have been a hint of a forward pass, though. The try's been given, however.
Yes.
Thompson under the post.
Oh, the Rabbitohs strike back, 2-0 down, and took Craig Coleman. Look at this beautiful inside ball here to Maybon, bucking up well, and away he goes. He's got Thompson coming on the... Thompson nearly overruns it here. Well, that was a bit dicey, that last pass. Could have gone forward, Peter.
Well, it's I've seen worse ones let go, I think, and it was great support play by the South Sydney team. Some lovely work from Craig Coleman here, taking the defence on. The ball in two hands, and that's important for a ball player. It shows that he's thinking of a couple of options. Some good backup from Rod Maybon, took the fullback on. I'm prepared to let the try go. And Noah Thompson under the post, Crossan moves in.
Crossan from right in front, easy stuff for him, the Kiwi. And South Sydney, they lead Eastern Suburbs in Friday night football by 6 points to 2. Blocker, are you able to fill us in on why Mark Carroll left the field?
Yeah, Mark Carroll's having a problem with that, the lens again. It was pretty funny that South Sydney didn't replace him. I think they were worried about using a replacement player, but it would have been 3 or 4 minutes that he was off, and Eastern Suburbs could have easily scored.
So another penalty in the match, this time going to South Sydney. 3-2 the count at the moment. The penalties in favour of Eastern Suburbs. Thompson looking for the line down near the 22. He finds it on the 32-metre line. Garlick takes the tap. Shot comes around towards the centre of the ground. So they've reached the centre of the park on one play. Garlick gives it away for Johnston. Garlick again, working for Coleman. They try the old angle that puts them back up the middle, and Carroll is tackled. Garlick away now for Andrews. Now Coleman, dummies to Maybon. Then he gives the pass away for young Mellor. 2 metres out from the line. 2 metres from scoring a try on his first touch in the major grade. Fuller to play it on 5. Garlick goes blindside. Coleman gives it to Maybon. It's forward. No try.
Well, the Rabbitohs look like try number 2 coming up there, but Eddie Ward's pulled it back. Forward pass.
Some classic Craig Coleman there, nearly put the young centre in. Very unfortunate. He couldn't keep his feet there and almost fell into the fullback. We see that on the last tackle, quick hands from Craig Coleman. Gee, that's a shame, because it was lovely bit of work on the blind side there. Coleman saw that they had numbers. Unfortunately, the ball just went forward.
And they're really worrying the East defence, Peter, aren't they, with their runarounds, their cutouts, decoys, and turning them all back inside. and really giving the East defence a big headache here. They don't know which way to go. All they've got to do is keep that straight line, keep covering both sides of the ruck, really.
Hanson taking it ahead very strongly, and a penalty goes to Eastern Suburbs. Well, Eddie Ward is giving plenty of penalties, but he's certainly going to try and keep them apart as Steve Funnell goes on in jumper number 51 for Eastern Suburbs.
Yeah, Dennis Beecroft, the man coming off, he copped a bad knock about 5 minutes ago around the chest area, possibly his sternum, and he's in a bit of trouble there.
Matthews takes the line finder.
Interesting player, Funnell. Ray's had stints with St George in West, and now he's found a home here with the Roosters.
Prothero. 8 metres into South territory. Jujalis comes across the ground. Andrews takes him, wrapping around the chest area. Singh. 32-metre line. South end of the ground. Brendan Hall steps, beats one, stands in a second, back it goes, and it's picked up back there by Johnston for South Sydney. Maybon. Nippy little fullback. Chunky. Possessed of good speed. Mellor. Huge raps on this youngster, 17 years of age. 6 points to 2 then in favour of Souths. Andrews. Garlic wasn't expecting it. Coleman punches it off. Going over towards the touch in goal. Lollies around in the end goal. Well-weighted kick. Oh, tremendous chase by Shot. Darren Shot. He's ensured a line dropout, and South will come back with 6 more.
A perfect piece of rugby league there by South. A great kick from Craig Coleman. Silver forced to take the ball up, and what about that for a chase? Darren Shot has come into the side. Plenty of enthusiasm. Line drop out, South Sydney back on the attack.
Frank Curry appears as though he's done his homework on Eastern Suburbs. Miller lets it go. That may have come off the knee. Wait for the referee. No, he's ruled a knock on against Mark Carroll. Well, I feel a bit sorry for the big fella, because young Miller, he got a mongrel of a bounce. And all of a sudden it was upon Carroll, and he didn't know it was coming.
Yeah, well, Souths are playing well when they do have possession, but they just can't afford, that's probably the 5th or 6th error in turning over the ball back to East.
Good heel by Eastern Suburbs, picked up at the back of the scrum by Gaffey. In the touch, well, that's dumb play.
No, it'll be a penalty, Ray. The tackle was already completed. Steve Funnell certainly went perilously close to the sideline, but it did look as though the South Sydney players continued on. We see Funnell taking Manoa Thompson. They've got him close to the sideline. Well, touch and go decision, that one. Got to agree.
Well, I thought it was the same movement. Unlucky.
East now with a penalty within striking distance at the South line, and Funnell bombarded by the South Sydney defence blocker. Paul Vorton raised that subject. It's been one that's been working against South, the fact that they do tend to turn the ball over too much to their opponents in bad field position.
Yeah, Ray, just too many handling errors. It's interesting to see the role that Tucker Coleman's playing in this game. He's putting the Eastern Suburbs defence under a lot of pressures as East go on the attack.
Matthews, his run ending about 12 metres, less than that, 5 metres out from the South Sydney line. They really threw it about. Here's a penalty, though. That's against South Sydney for milking the ball. Well, East showed just there in that passage of play some of the early form from that Canterbury game that we saw last Sunday. They're prepared to make the ball do the work.
They certainly are. Crosson's hand involved there. I thought they might be tempted to take the tap. That's what Gary Freeman has done. They're on a roll, got the momentum, looking for 4 points.
Sinclair plays it, Sherlock pushes it, Funnell, he goes to ground with it. No marker! Well, he's put it down over the line. It's a try. Oh, South Sydney, they failed to mark up again. Unforgivable stuff.
Yeah, very poor play there by the Rabbitohs. The quick tap taken, and the way they went the Roosters, and Funnell makes good yards up the middle here. But the two South players, instead of getting up to mark up, they just lay there. And Funnell said, I'll have a go at this. Too easy. The Rabbits, 4-pointer.
Well, for one stage here, the referee was the only marker. I think that's Sean Garlick on the ground. Came in much too late. Had to realise, look at, well, he's come in too late. Saw that the There's two defensive players still wrapped around the legs of Funnel, looking up at the referee. No doubt in his mind, 6-all, Eastern Suburbs, South Sydney.
Attempted conversion coming up for James Matthews. He'd be about 20 metres off centre. And a chance to boot Eastern Suburbs to the lead. One gets the feeling we might be in for a high-scoring game here tonight. Matthews. The opposition crowd willing against him, but it's a lovely-looking kick. The flags are up. No doubt in the minds of the touch judges. And Eastern Suburbs lead South Sydney by 8 points to 6, 20 minutes gone in Friday night football.
Well, Ray, South are a good chance to win this game, but they're not going to win it if they continue to make mistakes. And already we've got a penalty count of 6-2 against them. And a lot of them have come round that dummy half and marker area.
Georgalis. Gaffey. Singh. Oh, good tackle. Johnston got him with a real good tackle. Funnel, the try scorer. 40 metres out. 41 tackles required by South. Almost double the amount required from Eastern Suburbs. Sinclair. That kick, and it's gone out on the full.
Yeah, bad work there from the Eastern Suburbs team. The ball wasn't to go to Sinclair on the last tackle. He did what a lot of front rowers do. Put it to the boot, and over the sideline it went. Good field position here for South Sydney, already in the opponent's half.
They come the blind side, the Rabbitohs, and Johnston is brought down midway 22, halfway, east end of the ground. Again, they pump away at the blind side. Carroll gets a pass away, but Fuller can't take it. Seidenkamp, he loses his footing. Matthews.
Short out wide. Gary Freeman has seen it.
Freeman tries to get it out there. Silva tries to step around Thompson. Sherlock keeps it going to Hanson. 40 metres out from their line. Again they go to that left-hand side. Sinclair, aware that he made a mistake and a bad one. Runs it about 10 metres into opposition territory. Singh, 5 tackles gone. Freeman calls for it. Up it goes off the boot of the little Kiwi. Nicely weighted again. Brendan Hall went above the pack. It'll be a knock-on against Eastern Suburbs.
Yes, and a turnover, Ray, but some great quick play the balls there by Eastern Suburbs. That allowed them to get a roll on. The South defence just getting back in the defensive line, knowing they've got to come back up very quickly, and just too slow, them not coming up at all.
The Eastern Suburbs will continue with the bomb. They've had a lot of success with it this season, scored some important tries. And that last tackle, they put it up. It's a lottery once the ball goes in the air.
Garlick getting a one-handed pass back in the direction of Darren's shot. Now Coleman for Andrews. Andrews well held there by Hanson and Singh. Coleman calling it for left. Horan back inside for his captain. Further infield now for Mark Carroll, who's grasped on the halfway mark. 5 gone for South Sydney. Coleman, there's that kick again, trying to weight it down into that corner. And this time Prothero has nothing to do with it. A scrum will go down 10 metres away from the Eastern Suburbs line.
A good field position there, attained by Craig Coleman, but when they came back to the blind side here through the hands of Coleman onto Tim Horan, he actually had 3 men outside him against 2 defenders and decided to turn the ball back inside. He's only a young player, but he really did have an opportunity there with that extra player.
Eastern Suburbs leading by 8 points to 6. They've given the penalty.
Well, you can't do that, Mark Prothero. The marker was standing directly in front of him. Mark Prothero said, well, I'll tap the ball forward here, and the man was right in front of him. Can't do that. Mark Prothero gets up here to tap the ball forward. You can see Michael Andrews there standing directly in front of him. Eddie Ward, no choice but to give a penalty against them.
Let's take a sideline comment from Steve Roach.
Yeah, that's just the product of players trying to play the ball quickly. But I've noticed East all the time just try and keep hitting around on that short side and leave the South Sydney forward stranded.
Ian Crossan now, our man of the match in the game here the other night. 22 metres out. He came out of it with 7 out of 7 that night. He's only 10 metres off centre. And a chance to bring South Sydney back level. In flight looks perfect, doesn't it? Yes, it's a goal, all right. 8 points all, the scoreline in Friday night football on the wide world of sports. Local derby unfolding as expected, I suppose.
Well, history shows, Ray, that local derbies here between these two clubs at the Sydney Stadium are always very close games. I've played in quite a few of them myself, and a bit of so-called hatred between the two clubs, neighbouring clubs, and no spite tonight. It's certainly a great game.
Kick-off bouncing up for Rod Maben, and he sends Mark Carroll back towards the fray. Brown's turn to take it out. Second tackle on this set of 6. Coleman through an opening to the halfway line and then smothered by Silva. Brown, been a good set of 6 so far. Thompson. Gullick, blindside for Coleman. He's all over the place, the captain. Crossan has pulled down. 5 tackles gone now. Coleman stabbing towards the sideline. Silva asked to bring it back. Andrews is there to make the tackle.
He's having a fine game, Michael Andrews. Already done 13 tackles in the match, and there's another one there, and he's taken the ball up very strongly. He's been nearly their best player, along with Tugger Coleman.
Well, there he is, Andrews, putting 3 back-to-back. Will he make it 4? He's in at front marker. I don't think so. Sinclair, swamped by the South Sydney defence. Freeman folding from right to left, and Hansen puts it down. Well, what's Maben doing?
Well, I don't think his forwards are going to be too impressed. He only had to dive on that. It's one scrum that they certainly didn't need to pack into. We see Steve Hansen hitting it up. Simply the ball flies out. South only have to pick it up.
Well, it was actually Coleman. Maybe
yes, it was Coleman.
Yeah,
you're quite right.
Maybe he was worried about the pressure on him by the East player. He didn't want to mess it up, but they've got the ball anyway, Souths.
Okay, it's away to Horan. Wide ball for Thompson. Young Miller coming flat, running out of territory. Thompson plays it just outside the 22. Miller pulled down around the bootlaces by Brendan Hall. Over the top by Sherlock. Ahead goes Johnston. 15 metres out, right in front. 8 points all, the scoreline. This is Carroll now, trying to get rid of Hansen, but he throws him to the ground. Gullick to the blind side he goes. 8 metres from the line, tackle number 5. 12 minutes away from half-time. Coleman out now for Horan. Puts the grubber in. Silva comes away with it.
Well, a nothing kick there from Tim Horan. I think he might have expected Craig Coleman to kick the football, but put it straight through into the Eastern Suburbs fullback's hands. No pressure at all. Eastern Suburbs now work it out. James Matthews out from dummy half. Some good ground there.
Freeman, Hansen tried to put on a hit and spin for Wayne Singh. It didn't come off. He was hit by Carroll in a good tackle. Freeman, good hands. Brendan Hall. 5 gone now. Funnel, big kicker of the ball from memory. In fact, I think he used to take quite a few of the penalties for St George when he was up there. Crossan slithering out of a couple of tackles, reclaimed by Freeman. Maybon. Hansen and Singh making the tackle on the South Sydney fullback. Garlick. Right on the 40-metre line. Johnston. Coleman. And again, he puts this judicious kicking game into action. Prothero starts to gallop it back. Fends off one, runs around a second, gets inside a third, picked up in the fourth.
Yeah, that wasn't a great chase there by South. Tugger put the ball down the right-hand side of the field. They only had 2 chases. One of them a second row against the winger, and good ground made there by East. And now they still run it out from dummy half with Georgialis.
Fine player who's been in reserve grade, typifying the strength of the Eastern Suburbs #1 side.
Well, he's mainly a half or 5'8", Ray, but with Gary Freeman leading the way for the Roosters and Brendan Hall playing well at 5'8", he hasn't had a chance there, but he's a very, very good player, Steve Georgialis. 5
tackles gone as Sinclair plays it now. It's with Freeman over the halfway line. Chip and chase for Freeman. Put down. Was it put down by Freeman or Coleman? Maybon, anyway, comes up with the football for South Sydney. Shot. Tackled by Freeman. Mellor. Tackled by Freeman. Back-to-back for the captain. Shot. Goes away for his second run on this set of 6. Garlick.
Well, I can't understand that, Ray. 4 runs from dummy half in a row, and they've got a full set of backs and forwards there standing behind, waiting for something to do, and they keep running from dummy half, making it very easy for the East defence.
Rod Silver now. Mellor picks him off. Will Silver. He was asking for that. He was running across the ground. He made himself an easy target. Prothero. Pulled down by Manoa Thompson. Freeman pushes it out for Funnel. Oh, Carroll went for the shoulder charge again. Singh looking to turn it back. Matthews was coming onto the ball, but he couldn't get it away. Freeman holds it back, then pushes for Sinclair. 5 gone for Eastern Suburbs. Freeman, cut-out ball, Brendan Hall. The ball goes to ground, and South Sydney come up with it, but it came off one of their hands anyway. And this scrum will be an Eastern Suburbs feed.
Well, another crucial mistake there made by South on the 5th tackle. That's the worst thing about it. Knocked down there by Miller. Unfortunate for him. But now East with possession again. They'll probably get another set of 6. But Steve Roach, Craig Salvatore's out for the East side. And I think they're certainly missing his damaging running up the middle tonight.
Yeah, I certainly do think so, Paddy. They're missing his thrust. I mean, none of these players are getting back really deep and running onto the ball except for Bruce Sinclair. He's about the only forward who's really getting back and having a go.
Comments from the sideline from Steve Blocker-Roach, and he'll be with us in State of Origin 1 next Wednesday night from here at the Sydney Football Stadium. Freeman pushes it across to Hansen. He tries to get a pass down for Freeman, but it's been knocked on. So at the football stadium in Friday night football, we're all locked up still at 8 points all. Scrum going down about 25 metres out from the south line.
We're into the last 10 minutes now, Ray. Just over 8 minutes on the clock. And a great attacking opportunity. Rob Maybon into open spaces.
Maybon's over the halfway line. They won't catch him, I don't think. He's got 10 to go. He's there. Maybon. Well, how simple was that? Even the scrum win, it was a sloppy scrum win when you see it on replay. Coleman gets a bad ball out of the scrum. There was even a hint of a knock-on. There it is now.
Funnily enough, Ray, South Sydney have come up with the success that you expect Eastern Suburbs with their blind shot from scrums. That's great pace from Maybon because he's being chased by Mark Prothero, who is no slouch, but a very, very simple try, scored at a crucial time.
Yeah, he's having a stormer as Maybon. That's a great South Sydney try, but I'm just wondering, where was the Eastern Suburbs defence? You don't see many tries scored from scrums, but there was no defence whatsoever. Gary Freeman appeared to take Coleman out of play and took himself out of play in doing that.
12 points to 8 in favour of South Sydney. Well, Blocker, what an easy try. I know it was 60 metres, but how easy was it?
Yeah, it certainly was. Funnel, who broke from the scrum, he just broke too slow, and Freeman didn't come across quick enough, and Maybon just beat the whole 3 of the East players for pace and just sprinted away from him in the end.
I was telling you that Steve will join us on Wednesday night for our live coverage, 7:30 right through. Gary Belcher will join us as Crossan from near the touchline. This time he's wide, but at least we know he's human now, Paul.
Yeah, he's a great goal kicker, that's for sure, and his general play has certainly improved over the last, 5-6 weeks. and he's a very handy player for the south side. But right now what they've got to do, South, is consolidate on this 12-8 lead, make no mistakes in their own half, get Coleman with the kicking game to keep East pinned in their own quarter or half, and get some good chasing going.
Total of 96 tackles made by Souths, 60 by Eastern Suburbs, but the scoreboard tells it the other way. 12 points to 8 in favour of the Rabbitohs. Darren Schott. He's big and he's fast. Carroll gets it outside 22. Gullick. That's Paul Fuller playing in jumper number 40. Came into the side for Darren Maroon. Maybon's out from dummy half. Manoa Thompson. Very big kick going over the head of Rod Silver. Right back to the goal mouth. Silver brings it back now.
One of the good things about Manoa Thompson's kicking game, apart from the fact he can kick a long way, is he kicks very high, and that allows the chasers to get there. Very important in the American gridiron football. That's how they gauge their kickers. Manoa Thompson certainly gives his chasing team plenty of opportunity to get down there early.
Georgalis to play it. Hanson rucks it. Oh, good tackle. He picked him off over the top. Peter Johnston. That shook him up a bit. Sinclair. 32 out from his line on 5. Freeman stabbing it down into the enemy territory. Maybon brings it back again. Matthews makes the tackle with Sherlock. Crossan. To the blind side for Darren Schott. Carroll takes it ahead. Halfway line on your screens now. Johnston. Half time, only a matter of 3 minutes out. Coleman not taken late. Silver comes back outside the 10. Andrews picks him off.
Yeah, great chase, Michael Andrews. 22 tackles for him now. He's had a great first half. There's another one. He's been their best forward. He's chasing all day, and he's an inspiration to them tonight.
Nearest rival to Andrews in the tackling department is Peter Johnston, back on 18. Oh, bad ball for Freeman, but he's cleaned it up. Brendan Hall. This is Funnel. Oh, chancy pass, it came off. Matthews almost makes halfway. 5 gone. Freeman. Brendan Hall comes back inside. Well, he trips over his own ball.
Oh, what about that?
Well,
he's gone to chip it through and done a dipsy-doo-dah, and down he went. Headley Hall. Classic stuff.
Halfway line now. South with the ball. Garlick. Johnston.
Been impressive, Ray. Peter Johnston, the former Parramatta front rower, and his tackling's been first rate, but he's also hit the ball up with plenty of vigour, plenty of vim, and he and Carroll have really led the way for the South forwards, along with Michael Andrews, and I just feel as though they're just getting on top now, the Rabbitohs.
Coleman turns it inside for Horan. Horan inside for Thompson. Thompson away. Darren Schott. Schott. Is it Brown? Darren Brown goes over under the bar. Well, the young boy Horan. He did so well. He's down injured now. Darren Brown, he loves to score a try.
Well, the Rabbitohs, they weren't thinking about consolidating. They want more points. And in came the 5'8" in Horan. What's this pass over the head? Beautiful stuff from him. And the backup was there. And Darren Brown, he's a noted try scorer for the south side. Under the sticks, that's where you want to score him. Rabbitohs.
16 points to 8 then. Attempted conversion to come.
But really, the Eastern Suburbs defence, a bad missed tackle there by, I think it was Matthews, and it just fell apart there in the end. And the South is playing too well at the moment.
Crossan, he adds the extras, and 18 points to 8. So Eastern Suburbs looking down the barrel of successive defeats. 10 points in arrears coming up to the break.
Well, I can see that young Tim Horan, they're calling for the stretcher for him. Could be a knee problem for him, and now the stretcher coming on the field as the players head back to halfway. Eddie Ward's called time off.
Well, that's terrible luck for the young fellow. He did so well, blocker, young Timmy Horan.
Isn't it refreshing to see young players using their skill? But Horan looks to be in a lot of trouble. I think it's an ankle problem. It's probably his left ankle.
So the crowd, they just grab a moment to relax because they've had plenty of excitement. 4 tries in the first half. But now, as is the case in this great game of ours, there comes the moments of dismay for Tim Horan at the moment.
There'll be a big cheer for Horan as he comes off. But look, you've got to give Frank Curry, the South coach, a lot of credit here. Here it is here, his ankle just buckled there. Give Frank Curry some credit. He's got this youth policy. He's not frightened to use young players. A lot of coaches these days, they say, oh, let the young players bide their time in second grade and under 21s. No, well done, Frank. Give the young kids a go in Mella, Horan and Shot, and the dividends are being paid off right now.
Well, Peter Sterling sums it up when he says, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And this is Darren Shot playing the ball now. Darren Brown with it, but he's lost it. Seconds away from the break. Funnel to play it. 32 metres out. Freeman, long pass out there for Brendan Hall. Taken by Coleman, got the pass away. Jorgalis, crunched to the ground by Brown. Sherlock, Wayne Singh, down to the 22 line. Seconds remaining. They may go to the air here. Gary Freeman does that. Gives himself a chance coming up to the break. Down it comes. And Eddie Wood acknowledges the half-time siren with, at the break, South Sydney leading Eastern Suburbs by 18 points to 8. 3 tries to 1. A sparkling performance by the Rabbitohs.
Strap in wherever you are. Enjoy the ride here on Fox.
This is huge.
Massive.
Enormous.
Magnificent.
It's unbelievable.
Amazing.
Wow. This is Hollywood stuff.
Oh, my word.
Every game of the Big Bash Finals, live with no ad breaks during play. Don't miss the thing.
You are watching something you will never forget.
Love the thrill of the chase during the Aussie Open? Well, why not make it a multi with Sportsbet? We're serving up more markets, more offers and bigger odds. Make it a multi with Sportsbet.
Gamble responsibly.
Hey! Oh. So you do like it? Okay. I love it, yeah.
Now when you go pre-owned, you can enjoy the same feeling you get with a new Toyota. Tested and backed by Toyota.
Upgrade your car, mate.
This? Yeah, no big deal.
Toyota certified. Pre-owned in a class of its own. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
Want to get closer to the magic of the FIFA Women's World Cup? Grab your chance to win a seat at the final. Buy and scan specially marked Coca-Cola products to win match tickets or Coca-Cola merchandise instantly every day.
If you want to bowl faster tomorrow, you need sports nutrition you can trust today. INT Sports Nutrition is banned substance tested and Informed Sports certified. INT Sports Nutrition, powering tomorrow, today.
Julio bought cheap car insurance with cheap accident repair. Don't risk bargain regret. Next time join the A-Team, hey Julio. Who offers great value cover you won't regret? Amy does.
Got a gut, yeah, shake it off, oh yeah. Got a gut, shake it up, yes you can with the man shake. Got a gut, shake it off.
When you escape the city, you find adventure. Prepare to be moved. The all-new Nissan X-Trail.
The kitchen conversation. I need a double shot of inspiration. Politics? Nah. Property prices? Ooh, too grim. Reality TV? Bingo.
Talking news? Be on it. News.com.au.
Excellent looking shot. Welcome back to the Sydney Football Stadium now. South Sydney leading by 18 points to 8. We're coming up to the start of the second half, but just at the conclusion of that first half, Gary Freeman went down injured there. All other players filed from the ground. You saw Darren Brown come over the top, and Freeman looked like he may have suffered a neck injury out of that incident. He's back on the field, though, but it was a worrying time for both the Eastern Suburbs supporters and, of course, for Gary Freeman. As we get underway now, second half of Friday Night Football, with South Sydney leading by 18 points to 8. Now, Blocker, can you fill me in on Gary Freeman and what, in fact, was the extent of the injury?
Well, Gary Freeman thought he heard a bit of a crack in his neck, but fortunately he's all right and he's taken the field for the second half. Graham Murray in the East room, he just said to his forwards to keep grinding. It's been a couple of bad mistakes by them, and Souths have scored a couple of lucky tries, he thinks. He said they're not sticking to the game plan. He'd like to see them do is what he's been telling them all week to do. In the Souths room, unfortunately for Tim Horan, he's got a suspected broken ankle, which is very unfortunate for him. He thought, Frank Curry said, look, to the South players, the game goes for 80 minutes and I want to see them have a good second half. He thought they're a bit lazy in the play of the ball. When Eastern Suburbs scored the try, there was no marker. He'd like to see a bit more support for the forwards, and he thinks that their chasing game's dropped off a bit.
Oh, gee, that was a solid tackle by Johnston. He's come up with some bone-jarring tackles. He just picked off James Matthews. Here it is again. He got the shoulder right under the midriff, and Matthews, he took that tackle. And he's up, he's okay, but the penalty goes to Eastern Suburbs now. So Johnston has started the second half for South where he left off in the first. Powerful defensive display.
One of the impressive things about Peter Johnston's display, Ray, is I obviously know him very well from the Parramatta Club. He was prone to miss a lot of tackles looking for the big hit, but he's certainly become much more selective as to when he goes in for the big hit. You've called him 3 or 4 times tonight as being the man instrumental in that, and he really has curbed the amount of times he goes in and certainly the amount of missed tackles he was coming up with.
This is Georgialis now. Freeman. Wayne Singh trying to get it back on the inside. No runners to the blind side. Daffy for Sinclair now. 10 points the margin in favour of South Sydney. Daffy almost riding through. He didn't see Matthews on the inside, unmarked. Seidenkamp. 15 metres out from the line, 5 tackles gone. Freeman decides for the grubber kick. Crossan was there, read it well, and tackled by Rod Silver.
Yeah, that was good play there by Crossan. Came back in the field off his wing just to cover that. And that's fine play by South. Now they'll struggle to get out of this quarter. They need some big runs, some dummy half runs, and a couple of these big forwards to hit it up and make those hard yards up the middle.
Paul, do you think that both teams have looked vulnerable in defence, and if they relax at all, South Sydney, 10 points, isn't that insurmountable for the Roosters?
Well, what worries me about East, they just seem to lack a few ideas. They make good yards, but as Garlick makes a break up the middle.
Garlick's outside the 40-metre line. Now it's Fuller. Fuller's making good ground. It's gone away to, that's Trindle. Trindle, I think it is, in 44.
It is indeed, and they haven't relaxed, Paul, not by any stretch of the imagination. Sean Garlick, a great run from dummy half, just opened up the Eastern Suburbs defence. Very, very easy ground made up the middle, and good support play. The number 40 was able to get on Garlick's shoulder. We see there some easy ground. Fuller showed good speed there, Fuller. And what a man to have outside you, Darryl Trindle.
That last pass okay?
Well, he scored in the corner.
He certainly did.
Ian Crossan's about to have a kick at goal, so I think it must have been.
But Garlick, what a great break by him. The Eastern Suburbs defence really stinks at the moment, and Garlick sets up the try.
Well, South Sydney have laid on a couple of tries. Just when you sort of didn't expect it, Eastern Suburbs have opened up. We saw it with Maben's try in the first half, and now young Trindle's try in the second half blocker.
Yeah, it was a great try. Yeah, good play from Sean Garlick. I think Steve Hansen from the Roosters was trying to come up and make a big hit on Mark Carroll, and good play from Sean Garlick, who's seen that and scooted away from dummy half. Good support from Trindle to finish off the try.
Crossan's kick is going wide, so no further addition. 22 points to 8. Wednesday, State of Origin here from 7:30 live. Blocker Roach, Gary Belcher, Peter Sterling, Paul Vorton, all adding their expertise to the coverage. And then on Friday we go to Perth to the Wacker for Parramatta and Canterbury. That's a 6:30 Western kickoff. And again repeating, there are some very good tickets available there if you'd like to come to the Rugby League at the Wacker next Friday night. Brendan Hall.
We have another replacement on Ray, Nick Zisti. The South Sydney team, reserve grade winger, is out there. As the last tackle is signalled by Eddie Ward for Eastern Suburbs. Into the final 10 minutes now.
Freeman puts it in the air. Came back and down off the arm of Seidenkamp. Forward from Ricketson to Sherlock. That one I agree with. 22-10 in favour of South Sydney. Played by Brown. Coleman tried to get the pass away. Andrews was with him. Strong game from Michael Andrews tonight. Coleman played that ball back, trying to milk a penalty. Garlick plays it back for Coleman, who gives it out. And Carroll drops it onto his boot. Weighted nicely down into the corner. Rod Silva, he's had a busy night. Grassing tackle there by Cabery. This is Prothero. Hall. 8 minutes of time remaining. 12 points the margin in favour of the underdogs tonight. South Sydney. Colin Ward. Freeman. A lot of the zip gone out of Freeman's second half. He suffered that injury right on half-time. Here he is now. Maybon, he goes back and across. Brings the crowd to their feet as he makes that run across the ground. Crossan. .51 funnel going back into the battle. Johnston, held by Ricketson. I'm feeling there was a player back 20, 25 years ago by the name of Ricketson, played with Eastern Suburbs. I'm just wondering if there's any relation, this youngster in the Roosters jumper.
Did you play against him, Fatty?
Reggie Ricketson it was, I think.
I think his name was Doug, to be honest with you. Coleman stabs it down for Silva to bring it back.
Well, the match is just winding down now. I think both sides just... He's still trying hard to win the match, but South's content just to hold them out. They're not really trying much in attack now. They're content just to ruck the ball up, take some yards and put the kick in, and they've really closed the match down. And Frank Harry will be happy with that, because as we said before, he's been critical of his side in the past for only playing 40 minutes, but the second 40 minutes have gone well.
That kicking game has been very impressive this second half. They really have played good field position, made it very tough. Well, another mistake there from Eastern Suburbs. Nigel Gaffey going through. I think he was expecting a football. But they've kicked well, they've kicked early, they've kicked deep, they've put them in the corners, and that's made it very difficult for the Roosters.
Yeah, in the chasing game, Peter, hasn't it's been good, Rod Silver, what a devastating fullback he can be at times, but they've really handled him well tonight in that kick chase situation. Frank Curry has done his homework. He's had his plenty of tacklers going through on him, and Silver's made no ground whatsoever in that position tonight.
We're looking, of course, again for the MMI Man of the Match, the MMI Insurance $1,000 winner. And there's been some outstanding performers here tonight.
Been some great performers for South Australia. You look at Craig Coleman, here he is again. Beautiful ball.
Maben! Off the legs there of number 15 for South Sydney. That's Darren Shot. Well, the referees ruled that it was a knock-on.
Yeah, well, Coleman's controlled their play all night. Wherever he's gone, the ball has gone. As you just watch this pass.
Yeah, he got hands to it.
He certainly did.
But apart from him, you look at Michael Andrews, 40 tackles. Outstanding defensive performance by him. Also, Johnston, the front rower, 34 massive hits by him. And Mark Carroll, 18 hit-ups for Mark Carroll. That's outstanding for a front rower blocker.
It certainly is. You know, both front rowers, as we said earlier, you know, both front rowers, Johnson and Carroll, have set the foundation. Gary Freeman just leaving the field now for Eastern Suburbs with a crook back.
Gaffey to play it. Time running out now for Eastern Suburbs. 4.5 minutes to go. And trailing by the impossible, 22 points to 10. This lad has had a very big second half. Seidenkamp, Brendan Hall, torpedo pass across for Ricketson. Down to the 22 before Haybury makes the tackle. Blindside rush for Ward. 15 out from the line on 5. Away from funnel, Brendan Hall. Low profile kick across the ground. Trindle is there. Will he get back into the field of play? Yes, he will. That's a fine performance by the young fellow.
Yeah, and he's cramping up too. Take the ball off him.
Darren Shot moving the pointer to play the ball. Manly versus Cronulla tomorrow at Brookvale, as we take a sideline comment from Steve Roach.
I can't understand for the life of me why Trindle isn't in first grade. He's had a great second half here tonight.
Darren Brown to play it.
Well, looking at the program, Steve, he was actually named on the bench in reserve grade, so I would have assumed from that he's come back from some sort of injury.
Or he might have been a naughty boy and not turned up to training.
That has happened, I think. Ricketson coming back from the 40 to the halfway line.
Yeah, who gets him, Ray, but the second rower, Andrews.
Sherlock. Again, Andrews makes the tackle.
Well, no wonder he's always doing it. He's that fit. He looks after 5 girls that he's got at home there, and his missus. That's why he's so fit.
Now a nice infield pass from Gaffey. Puts Georgialis down the ground, and a grassing tackle by Tugger Coleman.
Well, I thought Georgialis had to go infield, really. That's where the support was coming from. But the cover defence was always going to have him covered. He looked too late. And really, Craig Coleman had an easy task to put him over the sideline. 2 minutes left on the clock. That was the final throw of the dice. South Sydney now work it away for 5 and put the big long kick courtesy of Manoa Thompson.
And here is Thompson with the ball. Two minutes of this match remaining in Friday night football. Zisti. Darren Shot. Brown. 10 more metres, make it more than that. Coleman. Infielder for Garlick, away from another. Brown holds it back, spreads it for Crossan. Seidenkamp showed him the sideline. Cabry. Prothero got away from the tackle there from Zisti. Now kicks ahead, needs the bounce. He's got the speed. It might be left to Rod Silver. He finds a runner in the shape of Brendan Hall. Hall will play it 8 metres out from the line. And the penalty and the sin bin.
Yeah, that's good play, let me tell you, by Mark Carroll. as East will spread it wide here from the quick tap. No, Georgie's gone on his own. But Mark Carroll knew that if he gets up off the tackled player, it'll probably be an East try. They only had 3 defenders against 10 or 12. He's cost himself 10 in the bin, but it's been worth it.
Gillard across back to the blind for Silva. Prothero will put it down. A try in the dying seconds to Eastern Suburbs.
If you have an infringement as such, and you have so many points, and after that you may miss a week. That was nice play, but it was a professional foul, and we can do it without it in the game. But while it's there, well, there's the conversion. Too little, too late. Steve Funnell's put it over the middle, but a good win to South Sydney, 22-16.
This has been a presentation of Fox Sports in partnership with the National Rugby League.